All right, guys. Hello, hello. You're going to have to excuse the gym hair, don't care, because the fact that I'm leaving the gym is the whole reason I am coming to you. I actually just had this really great, productive conversation with a fellow chalk monkey, which is what I like to call myself and my fellow climbers at the rock climbing gym. And he's a younger guy. I say younger guy, he's like the age of my son. But a new baby was just born. It's their third baby. Obviously the people that I know at the gym know what I do. And so when he saw me, he came over and was like, hey, and I was like, long time no see. How's the baby? Assuming that baby life had kept him from being able to be at the gym. And he's like, I am so glad to see you. I was hoping you'd be here because I need to pick your brain. I was like, okay. So I'm thinking he knows I am a mom. I'm a nana to 7. He must be wanting to pick my brain about, I don't know, sleep schedules. Why would he think that I know anything about sleep schedules? For all he knows, I could have been a crappy mom. So I was like, oh, really? Why? And he's like, well, I know you said you do, help people who are really feeling like they're overwhelmed and behind and, can't get their mind to focus on what the priority is. And since baby's been born, it's been like that for both my wife and I. He's like, literally, I had to take a mental health break and come to the climbing gym today, which I can relate. He's like, we figured out her mental health break. We figured out my mental health break. I'm here today, and I was hoping you'd be here. So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, tell me what's going on. And obviously, I don't want to bore you with all his story, but just think, he's a dad who works from home full time. He can go in and out of the office as well, but because he can work from home full time, that means he can be home with, new mom, which is fabulous. She also works, and this is their third child, and they're all little, like first grader and under. And so just imagine, right? And he's like, everything feels like a priority. And the mesh between work and home, and especially baby home, is so tight that it's very hard for me not to feel just overwhelmed all the time and not know where to start. And so, we're sitting there in the rock climbing gym, right? So I'm not going into great elaborate detail. I'm not going into, well, in my course, we go through this first to help you prioritize. And, we're not going through the whole framework of everything I do. I just pulled out this tiny piece that I know always gives my clients. And we do this actually often, even though they're going through all the frameworks, to give them instant clarity when they're feeling overwhelmed. But I said, this is one of the things that I think is a huge needle mover and can be done very simply. So when you're overwhelmed, you need something as simple as possible. You're basically in that task overwhelmed situation where no matter what you do, it feels like it's not enough. Probably because it is, probably because your brain's not focused enough on the one thing to move the needle. So you feel like no matter what, you're always still behind. And so one of the ways to really sort that situation out in your brain is this. Number one, find a place. If you can do this extra step, it's bonus. Find a place where you feel like I can actually be a little bit calm. In his situation, this might be super hard, other than him and his wife having the conversation of, hey, mental health for both of us is I go be able to do this. We got to figure out, give me 30 minutes to be able to do this. But if you can, find a location where your nervous system feels calm, or is removed from the situation that feels so overwhelming. Or another simple hack that I think is fabulous is get your earplugs, your noise canceling earplugs, and go find YouTube nature sounds, or what are the little bongo wonderful sound bath drums, whatever those are. The minute I put the nature sounds in my ears and it's noise canceling everywhere else, any anxiety, any stress, any overwhelm I had comes down dramatically, instantly. So what I'm saying is, if possible, the bonus is that you can remove yourself from or create a space that allows you to lower that stress level and calm your central nervous system, because then the next step will be even better. Get some earplugs, find some nature music, go in a room that's not associated with the overwhelm, if that's possible. Sometimes our whole life is the overwhelm like he's feeling right now. Number 2 is then get out a piece of paper, and I just want you to vomit everything that needs to be done, every idea that comes. I want you to vomit it as it comes up. I don't even want it to have any logic. It doesn't need to have any rhyme or reason the way it's coming out. If you like to mind map, maybe do a loose mind map. Not anything. We want this to be vomiting. So obviously when we vomit, it's uncontrollable, right? We're just hoping to get it in the toilet, right? So I just want you to vomit out everything that's in your brain right now that's overwhelming with no logical connection whatsoever. And if you're like for me, it'd be like the project I'm working on right now. I'd vomit that first little thing out of like, this is overwhelming because it's a new thing I've got to learn and figure out. And then I would write that down. And if, as I vomited, any other ideas came and it was sitting right there and I could see it, I would kind of put it around that area like you would mind map. But I wouldn't worry about hunting for it. I wouldn't worry about organizing it. I would just kind of time together if possible. Don't overthink it. Just get it in the toilet. Get your vomit in the toilet. Then I want you to look at that vomit, and I want you to just look through the things that are actually actionable right now. Which one is the thing that I could do right now that would take the least amount of time? And I know that seems really, really crazy because you're like, I need to do the big thing, but we have to get you unstuck. This isn't like the solution for every situation. This is the solution for when your brain is in freeze mode or fawn mode or flight mode, right? Like when you are so overwhelmed that you just can't even imagine knowing what the next best step was. And unfolding a big project would never actually happen. You would just sit there blindly panicking because you knew that that's what you should be doing, but you couldn't do it, right? So this is not the solution for every situation. This is the solution for when we're in absolute overwhelm, or in a situation where no matter what, it seems there's too many answers. So there's not a right one. There's too many answers that are right. So it's hard to find the pristine right one, if that makes sense. So much to do. Every one of them is a priority. I wouldn't know where to start. That feeling. We all get it, right? It's not just me. It's not just him. It's not just people with little babies, or crazy people like me. So in that case, now you're looking at your vomit list here and you're asking yourself, which one on here is the thing that would take me the least amount of time to do and complete? And maybe all of them are like, these would all take 5 days. Then you need to then take the one that you think would be the biggest needle mover and break it down into its smallest pieces. That's a step 2. So let's stick to the vomit page first. So for him, he gave me a couple ideas of what were some of the things that he needed to do. And one of them was, they had been so busy, they had not been able to get their new little first grader all of her school stuff. And so that is like weighing heavy on both him and his wife. Like, what kind of crappy parents are we that we haven't even been able to do that? And I was like, okay, well, how long would that take you? Well, actually, we could just go on Amazon and order the stuff if we just sat down and did it. Now that I think about how to do it in the simplest, fastest way, she would be happy with that. And then we can take her shopping for some special stuff later on if she wants, kind of thing. Awesome. That's 30 minutes. Tonight, 30 minutes. What block of time are you doing this one? And so we went through just a couple things. Obviously not his whole vomit. He just gave me a couple things that as he was vomiting to me versus on paper were really at top. They might not be the simplest tasks for him because he hasn't done the whole process. But basically from that small list, we identified what one is the simplest action that could be done with the least amount of times that could be crossed off this list. And then the next is do that and then go do the next one. And then do that and go do the next one. And then do that and go do the next one. And here's the secret. Number 1, this gets you unstuck in your head. It helps you unstuck yourself, which is something I tell my clients all the time. You need to go unstuck yourself. It's a nice way to say the other thing because that's really what they've done is they've stuck themselves. And it is a way because now our brain feels some relief. We can check something off. We get that dopamine. There's all sorts of neuroscience stuff going on in this process and why it works so well. But it starts us being able to move forward and see that there is a way out of this thing that feels so crushing at the moment. And then From there, we can say, oh, wow, look, actually every big project was made up of these little tiny pieces. Every big project, I don't care how freaking big it is made up of little tiny pieces that I can choose what would be the next one to do. Now, pretty soon, as soon as that stress starts to lift and the overwhelm starts to fade away, you can then start asking yourself, not only which would be the quickest one for me to finish right now, what is the next best right thing for me to do that could be completed in the quickest amount of time, but you secondly can go ahead and say, and which one is the most viable or important, not viable, but most important one for me to do. So if I was to look at this list and say, all right, now that my brain's no longer foggy, I can say, and now on this list, which one would actually move the needle the most if I did it? So if I did this one thing, it would actually take care of a bunch of these things on this list, right? Now that might be a little bit bigger than the quickest one to do. And that's why this is step 2 after the fog lifts. You've got the dopamine hit, you've got the clarity, you're no longer in absolute overwhelm. And you can look at that list and say, okay, on that day when I was overwhelmed and I vomited this out, these were the things that I was also needed to do that were a little bit bigger. Out of them, which one of these could I act on immediately that would also be one that solved other solutions? So like for me right now, I have some back-end tech stuff, which is super overwhelming to me. Alicia hates the tech stuff. She does not like the tech stuff. Back-end tech stuff that I can't just hand off to a VA right now. And so I have to figure that out. But I know that back-end tech stuff is something that once it's solved, it literally solves a myriad of issues that I am dealing with right now. And so that would be my next one. In overwhelm, I choose the first ones that I can actually do right now that will take the least amount of time, that will move that dopamine, create momentum, release me from the overwhelm. And then once I can breathe, I can then look at that list and say, oh, and here's the one thing that if I tackled it, I would be able to be accomplishing and finishing and checking off a whole bunch of other things on this list through this one thing. It's a little bit more complex. My tech issues, clearly more complex. Would have already done it. My tech issues more complex, but it is something that would move the needle for multiple situations. And now we start to remove the stones that have created the overwhelm. First, we get the little pebbles out of the way so we can kind of see what's going on. And now we have the strength and the mental capacity to start moving the stones. Those stones being removed will help us no longer be in a state of overwhelm and keep us from entering back into a state of overwhelm. So obviously, little simplicity into a very complex subject. Like I said, didn't go deep dive into all my frameworks and all the geeky science stuff around it, but it was a really simple thing that I could share with him, right, sitting there on the bench looking at the wall, so that he could like de-stress and hopefully be able to finish a climb today that would just one more level of therapy at the gym. All right, you guys, I hope that helps you. He was super excited to go home and do it. He said he felt a ton of relief already just knowing there was some kind of solution there, something that he could do that would be simple and actionable, not take more than 30 minutes, and then be able to start crossing things off immediately. So hopefully that helps you as well. And I am pulling into my neighborhood right now. So I got to see you. Bye.